The black ink hit Serena Blake before the laughter did. It rolled down the front of her midnight blue dress in a cold, shining sheet, filling the seams she had hand-stitched and darkening every glass bead she had sewn through 6 sleepless nights. The converted chapel fell silent just long enough for her to hear the liquid striking the stone floor. Then the phones rose. Under the candlelit arches of Saint Aurelia Gallery, donors and collectors aimed their screens at her. Someone near the champagne tower whispered that the clip would be everywhere by morning. The quartet in the choir loft stopped mid-measure. Celeste Voss lowered the empty silver pitcher and smiled. White silk, diamonds, no remorse. Oh, Serena, I thought the ink was washable. The women beside her laughed. Serena smelled alcohol, iron salts, and resin. Conservation ink. Permanent. Celeste had not grabbed the wrong pitcher or made a drunken joke. She had chosen a compound designed to stain crates, evidence bags, and porous restoration surfaces. The dress clung to Serena's full figure. Her first instinct was to cover herself. Her second was angrier. She would not give Celeste the satisfaction. "You tested this first," Serena said. Celeste tilted her head. "You always did take your work too seriously." A flash went off inches from Serena's face. The chapel doors opened. Every candle flame leaned toward the aisle. The laughter died without anyone asking it to. Victor Hale entered, with 6 men behind him. He wore a black suit beneath a charcoal coat. No tie, no visible hurry. He was tall, broad through the shoulders, and unnervingly calm. A pale scar divided his left eyebrow. Santa Fe newspapers called him an investor, whose holdings reached from hotels to freight lines. People who knew what moved through those freight lines used a different title. Mafia Boss. Victor surveyed the room once. Phones, pitcher, ink, Celeste's smile, the scrape on Serena's wrist. Then he crossed the chapel and placed his coat around Serena's shoulders. The wool carried cedar, rain, and smoke. His hands never touched her skin. The restraint felt more dangerous than familiarity would have. "Delete the recordings," he said. No one moved. Celeste laughed softly. "You don't command my guests." Victor looked at the nearest man holding a phone. "Delete it." The man obeyed. Screens lowered one after another. Serena pulled the coat closed. "You cannot erase every copy." "No," Victor said, "but I can make keeping one expensive." Damien Voss appeared near the altar, silver-haired and composed. His foundation name covered museums, clinics, and preservation grants across northern New Mexico. It also opened doors that stayed closed to ordinary people. "This is a patron event," Damien said. "You were invited to bid, Victor." "I have not decided what I am buying." His gaze returned to Serena. She stepped away from him, unwilling to exchange one public humiliation for a stranger's protection. Her ink-stained palm struck the lower border of the stained glass window behind the altar. The sorrow of Saint Aurelia showed a kneeling woman beside a dry river, 7 stars above a mountain. Serena had spent 80 hours stabilizing its cracked leadwork. She knew every repair, every flawed pane, every 19th century brushstroke. But where her warm, inked hand touched the amber border, another image appeared. Serena forgot the room. She lifted a candle from the iron stand and moved it closer. Under flame light, lines emerged inside the saint's robes. Roads. Parcel numbers, family crests. The dry river became a chain of properties running south from Santa Fe toward El Paso. At the bottom of the window, delicate reversed initials appeared. E.H. Victor's expression changed for less than a second. "You know those initials," Serena said. Before he answered, the electric lights failed. The doors slammed shut. Water exploded from the fire suppression heads, extinguishing candles and sending patrons toward the exits. The hidden map faded pane by pane. Serena lunged for the nearest flame. A hand that was not Victor's caught her wrist. A man breathed against her ear. "Let it disappear." She drove her elbow backward. Bone cracked beneath it. The man cursed. Victor reached them in the dark. There was one blunt impact. Then the attacker hit the floor. "Stay behind me," Victor ordered. "That window is evidence. You do not know what it is. No, you do." A red emergency light flickered above the sacristy. In its pulse, Serena saw Damien standing dry beneath an umbrella held by one of his security men. Celeste had stopped smiling. 3 armed men were moving down the center aisle. Victor drew a pistol. The first shot shattered glass above Serena's head. Victor covered her with his body as colored fragments struck his back, then forced her through the side door into the sacristy. One of his men followed and shoved a cabinet against the door. The room was windowless and narrow, lined with old vestment drawers. A single votive candle burned beneath a wooden crucifix. Serena stared at the flame. The hidden layer responds to warm spectrum light. Electric lighting destroys the contrast. "Can you reproduce what you saw?" Victor asked. "Not all of it. Who is EH?" The door shook under a blow from outside. Victor checked his weapon. "Elena Hale, my mother." Serena knew the public story. Elena Hale had died in a car accident when Victor was 16. "You said she died on the high road to Taos. She did not die by accident." Another impact moved the cabinet. Victor's man, Marco, pulled an iron ring hidden beneath a bench. A trapdoor opened onto stone steps. "You go first," Victor told Serena. She looked through the splintered doorway toward the fading window. Beside a fallen attacker lay a canvas bag stamped Voss Conservation Services. Cutting pliers and lead knives had spilled from it. "They are not here to steal the panel," she said. "They are going to dismantle the lead lines and blame the damage on gunfire. Then we take what matters. The truth matters." Victor held her gaze. Something in his face shifted, not softness but recognition. He took the votive candle from its stand and placed it in her hands. "Keep it alive," he said. Then he followed her into the tunnel. The tunnel surfaced 2 blocks away, behind a row of adobe shops. Rain had turned the alley black and reflective. 3 armored SUVs waited with their engines running. Serena stepped into the open wearing Victor's coat over her ruined dress, the small red candle cupped in both hands. Gunfire cracked from a rooftop. Victor moved between her and the sound, forcing her behind an armored door while his men returned fire. The candle slipped. He caught it before it struck the pavement. For one strange second, the most feared man in Santa Fe crouched in the rain with a gun in one hand and a votive flame protected in the other. "Get in," he said. This time, Serena did. The convoy climbed north into the hills, while Victor issued orders into his phone. "Ground every Voss aircraft. Freeze the Foundation's exposed accounts, but do it quietly. I want Damien to believe he still has money until morning." Serena watched him end the call. "You can freeze another family's accounts?" "Yes." That should not be a one-word answer. It was not a difficult question. "Where are you taking me?" "My house." "No. It is defensible. So is a police station. Damien Voss funds the district attorney, owns the sheriff's campaign debt, and has 2 federal agents on his charity board. You have proof? I have names. From the window? From 20 years of people trying to sell me pieces of the same truth." The city lights fell behind them. Humiliation returned now that the shooting had stopped. Serena imagined the ink pouring over her again, slowed down and replayed by strangers. She pressed her hands together to stop them shaking. Victor noticed. "Who made the dress?" "I did." "It can be restored." "No. Most things can. You buy companies. I restore glass. We do not use that word the same way." He studied the beadwork visible beneath his coat. "My mother restored glass." Serena turned toward him. "She worked under the name Lena Vale," he said. Every serious conservator knew Lena Vale. She had developed layered silver stain techniques that revealed secondary images at dawn or under flame. Her career ended in disappearance, and museums still argued over whether her methods had been art, chemistry, or both. She was Elena Hale? Yes. And the Voss family killed her. People in that chapel killed her. Victor's estate was built into the mountainside, quiet sandstone and steel surrounded by darkness. Guards opened the gates before the convoy slowed. Inside, a physician named Lucia Navarro cleaned Serena's wrist, while Victor disappeared into a security room. Someone brought black trousers and a cream sweater in exactly Serena's size. She disliked that detail enough to leave the clothing folded until Dr. Navarro pointed out that the ink compound could irritate her skin. By sunrise, the humiliation video had been viewed 4 million times. Serena sat in the guest suite, reading messages she should have ignored. Some praised Victor's intervention as romantic. Others accused her of staging the scene. Strangers discussed her body with the confidence of people reviewing a public building. The ruined dress hung over a wooden screen. She had refused to let anyone throw it away. Victor entered, carrying a padded case. A fresh cut marked his knuckles. "Did you recover the window?" she asked. "Part of it." He opened the case. 17 glass fragments lay wrapped in archival tissue. Stars, border pieces, sections of the saint's robe. The central panel was gone. "Celeste took it," Victor said. Then she called. He played the recording. Celeste's voice sounded amused. "Give me Serena Blake, and I'll return the heart of your mother's window." The message ended. Serena stared at the phone. "She thinks you might trade me. She knows I will not." "How?" "Her father offered my mother the same bargain. Evidence for silence. Life for obedience. Elena refused. Victor closed the case. My mother discovered that the Voss Foundation used preservation grants to acquire distressed property. Churches, shelters, clinics, apartment buildings. They forced owners into default through inflated restoration contracts, washed money through the work, then took the land. And she encoded the transfers into the glass. She believed sacred art could outlive the men paying to hide their crimes. Serena looked toward the desert brightening beyond the window. "Did she tell you what she had done?" "I was 16. She told me truth needed more than one hiding place. 3 nights later, I found her car below the high road. The brake line had been cut." His voice stayed level, which made the grief inside it more visible. "What did you do after that?" Serena asked. "I became difficult to kill." "That is not the entire answer. No." He faced her fully. "I bought Saint Aurelia 7 years ago through a preservation trust." Serena went still. "You own the chapel?" "Yes." "You approved my contract?" "Yes." "Because I published research on Lena Vale's spectral layering?" "Yes." The answers landed like doors locking. "You placed me in front of that window because you hoped I would find the map. I placed security throughout the building. You used me. I needed someone who could read my mother's work. And you decided my consent was optional." Victor's jaw tightened. "I did not know Celeste planned the ink. You knew the Voss family was coming. You knew they wanted the panel. You knew I was the only person in the room trained to reveal it. I entered 11 seconds after Celeste lifted the picture. That does not make you my rescuer. It makes you the man who watched the trap close." Silence sharpened between them. "You are not expendable," he said. "You barely know me. I know you stayed beside a window while armed men entered the chapel. Because evidence matters. I know." His gaze held hers with an intensity that had nothing to do with investigation. "You should have run," he said. "You expected me to. I expected everyone in that room to choose survival. And I disappointed you?" "No." His eyes dropped briefly to her mouth. "You created a problem I have not been able to stop thinking about." Serena almost laughed. "That is your closest version of a compliment?" "It is the closest available." He raised one hand toward the ink on her cheek, then stopped before touching her. She noticed, because he had done the same thing in the chapel. "Why do you keep stopping?" Victor's fingers remained suspended between them. "Because if I touch you, I may begin confusing protection with possession." "And stopping an inch away prevents that?" "No." His thumb brushed her jaw once, careful and controlled. An alarm sounded in the hall. Marco opened the door. "Blake Studio. Exterior cameras failed 4 minutes ago." Serena turned. "My studio?" Victor was already reaching for his weapon. Victor ordered Serena to remain at the estate. She picked up the evidence case. "My original photographs of the panel are at the studio." His expression hardened. "You should have said that immediately. Until 10 minutes ago, I believed the chapel owner was someone I could trust. Leave the case." "No. You are not walking into another unsecured building." "Then I will leave through a different door and call the police." "You would not pass the gate." Serena looked at him. "Then I suppose I would know you were controlling me." Victor stared at her long enough for Marco to glance away. Finally, he opened the door. "Stay beside me." It sounded like an order. Serena heard the surrender inside it. Her studio occupied an old print shop near the Santa Fe rail yard. Smoke was pouring through the roof when the convoy arrived. Fire engines had not yet appeared. Serena jumped from the SUV before it stopped. Victor caught her around the waist. "My files are in a steel cabinet. So is a building fire. The 3rd drawer is fire-rated. Your men will not know what to take. I will not permit it. That window is the last work your mother left." The words reached the place argument could not. Victor released her and took 2 respirators from Marco. "You do not leave my sight." They entered together. Smoke gathered beneath the ceiling. Flames climbed the rear wall near the kiln room, turning racks of colored glass into a burning cathedral. Victor kept one hand at the center of Serena's back, while she led him through cutting tables and soldering benches. The steel cabinet in her office was hot but intact. Serena opened the 3rd drawer. Empty. The hard drives, photographic plates, and red archival box were gone. A floorboard creaked above them. Victor drew his gun. A man descended from the storage loft wearing a firefighter's jacket without department markings. He carried Serena's red box under one arm and a pistol in the other. The shot exploded before Victor finished telling her to get down. Glass broke behind them. Victor fired back. The intruder stumbled but ran toward the loading door. Serena pictured the floor plan. The door sticks. He will pull the emergency chain. Victor looked at her. That chain releases the overhead glass rack. The man yanked it. 600 pounds of glass sheets dropped between him and the exit. Blue, red, and gold shattered across the floor. He fell beneath the edge of the rack. Victor reached him, kicked the gun away, and recovered the box. A support beam split above Serena. Victor drove her behind a cutting table as burning timber crashed beside them. A strip of torn metal sliced through his coat and into his shoulder. Blood spread immediately. "You are hurt." "Move." They ran as the studio windows burst outward. Outside, Victor's men pulled them across the street seconds before part of the roof collapsed. Serena tore off her respirator and pressed gauze to his shoulder. He tried to wave her away. "You are bleeding through an expensive suit in front of 20 witnesses," she said. "Sit down. Your concern is persuasive." She pushed him against an SUV. He placed his hand over hers on the bandage, and the contact stopped them both. "You went into the fire for my mother's evidence," he said. "I went in for the truth." That is what she would have said. Behind him, the studio Serena had built over 9 years burned beneath a pale morning sky. Her furnace, tools, commissions, and first imperfect panels disappeared behind the smoke. Celeste had not simply embarrassed her. She had erased the only place where Serena had never needed permission to belong. Victor followed her gaze. "I will replace everything." "No. I can rebuild the building before winter. That is not the same as restoring what was mine." His face closed, but he did not argue. Serena took the archival box from Marco. I want to see what survived. Victor opened the door of the SUV. At the estate. I am done hiding. This stopped being only about you when they began shooting. It became more about me when you used my expertise. They burned my work, and the entire country decided my humiliation belonged to them. Victor stepped closer. What are you going to do? Serena looked through the broken studio windows at colors melting together in the heat. I am going to finish the window. For the first time, Victor smiled. It was not gentle. It was the expression of a man discovering the woman beside him might be dangerous in a language he respected. The archival box held Serena's photographs and technical notes, but also an object she had never put there, a sealed letter marked with the 7-pointed star from the glass. Victor recognized the handwriting. He carried the letter into the estate library and held it unopened for nearly an hour while Serena arranged the recovered fragments beneath calibrated lamps. Are you afraid of it? She asked. No. You have stared at it for 53 minutes. I am deciding whether the dead should be allowed to give orders. Do you usually follow orders? No. Then you are safe. He broke the wax. The letter was from Elena. If this reaches you, then the window has found someone capable of seeing more than the image offered to her. Trust the artist only if she keeps the flame alive when others demand darkness. The 7 families built their fortune through ownership of grief. Every shelter closed, every chapel acquired, and every family displaced became property, transferred through the Saint Aurelia Preservation Fund. The window is not the evidence, it is the key. The evidence rests beneath the place where they first taught you to kneel. Do not become what they made of your father. Do not burn the whole world because they left you in the dark. Victor lowered the paper. Where did they teach you to kneel? Serena asked. Saint Aurelia. My mother gave restoration classes there when the chapel was abandoned. There was a loose stone near the altar rail. Then the records may still be inside. If Celeste knew that, she would have destroyed the floor. She believes the central panel contains everything. We should let her keep believing it. Victor folded the letter. We return tonight. We plan first. I have a plan. Does it involve armed men and everyone doing exactly what you say? Yes. That is not a plan. That is a personality disorder. A flicker of amusement passed over his face. Marco entered before it could become a smile. Damien Voss scheduled a press conference for 6. He is blaming the chapel attack and studio fire on Hale criminal activity. Celeste says Miss Blake helped stage the ink incident to raise the value of her work. Serena closed her eyes. The lie was absurd enough to spread. Victor's voice became cold. Cancel it. Every local network is already there. I was not speaking about their schedule. Let the conference happen, Serena said. Both men looked at her. If you respond, Damien will know we have something. Silence will make him believe the story worked. You are asking me to let him destroy your reputation, Victor said. He has already tried. This time I am choosing the cost. His jaw tightened. Serena saw how much harder choice was for him when it belonged to someone he wanted to protect. 6 hours, he said. Then I answer. Not with bodies. I make no promise. Your mother asked you not to burn the world. She did not know you. The room changed. Victor seemed to hear what he had admitted only after the words were gone. Serena stood across the work table from him, surrounded by fragments of his mother's glass. You do not know me, she said. I know enough. Enough for what? Victor came around the table. His uninjured hand settled beside hers, caging nothing, holding nothing, yet making the room feel smaller. Enough to know every instinct I have becomes violent when someone speaks your name with contempt. Her pulse jumped. That is not devotion. No. Protection? No. Then what? A liability. Serena almost laughed, but his face remained serious. You think I am your weakness. I think weakness can usually be corrected. And me? His gaze moved over her with controlled hunger. You are becoming impossible to correct. She should have stepped back. Instead, she said, You keep talking as if I am a problem you own. I do not own you. You arrange my movements, choose my risks, and decide what I am allowed to know. Yes. His honesty was infuriating. And every time you resist, I discover I prefer you resisting to anyone else obeying. The distance between them disappeared. Victor kissed her. The first contact was hard, with restraint rather than force. A man breaking his own discipline and despising how much he wanted the breach. One hand rose to the back of her neck. The other braced against the table, careful of his wounded shoulder, and perhaps careful of her. Serena caught the front of his shirt and kissed him back. His control fractured. He pulled her against him with a low sound, and for several breathless seconds the architecture of his power narrowed to the space between their bodies. Then he stopped. Cold air rushed between them. Why? Serena asked, still gripping his shirt. 6 armed men are outside the room. That is not the strangest part of this day. The audience is not what concerns me. What does? Victor looked at her as if the answer insulted him. That I would choose this over the chapel. Serena understood then. He did not fear desire because it weakened his image. He feared caring whether she survived more than whether he won. She released his shirt. Then we make sure you do not have to choose. At 6 that evening, Damien Voss told cameras that Victor had orchestrated the gala attack to damage a charitable foundation. Celeste stood beside him with a faint bruise beneath one eye and described Serena as an ambitious artist involved in a secret affair. Serena watched the broadcast from the estate's security room, while thousands of comments appeared beneath it. Victor stood behind her, motionless. Still 6 hours? He asked. Yes. They are calling you a liar. They called me worse before I knew you. I can end the conference in 30 seconds and prove their story for them. He leaned close enough for his voice to reach only her. You ask for patience as though it does not feel like surrender. Sometimes it is. That does not make it defeat. By midnight, Saint Aurelia stood dark behind police barricades. Plywood covered the windows. Official seals crossed the doors, and Victor's men removed them with the efficiency of people accustomed to treating law as a negotiable obstacle. Serena wore black work clothes and carried her restoration case. She had packed the ink-damaged dress beneath the tools, without telling Victor. Inside, moonlight entered through bullet holes. Broken glasses, overturned chairs, and dark stains remained from the gala. The central window had a hollow wound where Celeste had removed its heart. Serena knelt beside the altar rail. One stone bore a tiny 7-pointed star. Victor recognized it. My mother carved that. He worked a blade into the seam. The slab lifted to reveal an iron box wrapped in decaying canvas. Inside were microfilm canisters, photographs, property deeds, and 7 handwritten ledgers. Serena opened one. Payments connected the Saint Aurelia Preservation Fund to shell companies, illegal property seizures, trafficking routes, private prisons, and the deaths of witnesses. Page after page converted charity dinners and restoration grants into a map of organized theft. A photograph slipped free. Elena stood beside a younger Damien Voss and a man with Victor's eyes. Your father? Serena asked. Anthony Hale. He worked with them. At first. He moved money through construction companies. When my mother discovered the fund, he promised to help expose it. But he betrayed her. Yes. What happened to him? Victor looked at the photograph. I killed him. The chapel became very quiet. Serena had known Victor was capable of violence. Knowing an outline was different from hearing the confession beside an altar. Did he admit what he did? No. Did you ask why? I can call a rideshare, Grace said. Roman's expression did not change. You can. For several seconds, Serena wondered whether she had gone too far. Headlights swept across the walls. Engines surrounded the chapel. Victor drew his weapon. We were followed. The side doors opened. Armed men entered both aisles. Celeste walked behind them, carrying the missing central section in a padded frame. Her scarlet coat looked bright against the damaged stone. Damien followed with 2 attorneys and Santa Fe's police chief. "You make this easy," Celeste said. "All that power, Victor, and you still return to the room where your mother taught you to kneel." Victor stepped in front of Serena. Celeste smiled. There, that reflex, almost tender. Damien saw the open iron box. Fear finally disturbed his face. "Take the ledgers." His men raised their weapons. Victor's guards appeared in the choir loft above them. Safeties clicked throughout the chapel. Serena stood at the center of a massacre, waiting for permission to begin. Celeste lifted the glass frame. "If anyone fires, I drop it." Victor did not blink. "You believe glass is the only fragile thing here? You will not hurt me while I am holding Elena's work." "No," he said, "but Serena might." Every face turned toward her. Victor caught her wrist when she moved around him. Serena looked at his hand until he released her. Celeste gave a contemptuous laugh. "Still pretending he gives you choices?" "No," Serena said. "I am teaching him." Serena set her restoration case on the altar and removed the ruined dress. Celeste's smile faltered. "Sentimental? Scientific." Serena spread the blackened silk across the rail. From her case, she took conservation alcohol and poured it over the stained fabric. Victor watched her hands. "What are you doing?" The compound Celeste used contained lampblack, iron salts, and resin. It was chosen to damage silk, but not only silk. Serena looked at the central panel in Celeste's hands. "You tested the ink on the window before the gala. You needed something that would cover silver-stained fluorescence without immediately damaging the glass. That is why you carried it into the chapel." Celeste said nothing. "You planned to paint over Elena's hidden image after the auction," Serena continued. "But when you poured the same compound on me beneath the panel, the wet silk pressed against the lower glass and absorbed what your test had loosened." Damien snapped. "Enough." Serena took a candle from her case. One of Victor's men lit it, then another. Flame returned to Saint Aurelia, a wick at a time. The hidden roads emerged in the surviving border fragments near the altar. Serena raised the dress toward the candlelight. Lines appeared across the black silk. Names, account numbers, parcel marks. The final portion of Elena's coded route had transferred in reverse onto the dress at the moment Celeste tried to destroy Serena's dignity. Celeste stared. "You did not ruin it," Serena said. "You completed the map." Victor looked at her as though the armed men, the ledgers, and 20 years of vengeance had vanished from his awareness. The chapel doors opened again. Federal agents entered first. Reporters followed behind them with cameras already running. Damien's attorneys began shouting. Celeste turned on Victor. "You arranged this." "No," he said. "She did." Earlier that evening, Serena had encrypted Elena's photographs and technical notes, attached scans from the first ledger Victor's men had recovered, and scheduled a release to an investigative reporter. Victor supplied secure servers. Serena made the decision. By the time Damien began his press conference, copies had reached federal prosecutors, 3 newsrooms, and attorneys, representing families displaced by the fund. Now every ledger page was being uploaded, every property transfer, every payment to an official, every photograph of a witness who had later disappeared. The 7 families' accounts were freezing while they stood beneath a window purchased with stolen grief. Damien lunged for the dress. Victor intercepted him with one hand around his throat. Damien's feet nearly left the floor. For an instant, Serena saw the 16-year-old boy inside Victor staring down at his mother's wrecked car. He did not want testimony or trial. He wanted Damien to feel helpless before dying. "Victor," she said. His grip tightened. Let him face what he built. Damien clawed at his wrist. Victor. Slowly, Victor released him. Agents forced Damien to the floor and cuffed him. Celeste backed toward a broken candle stand, still holding the central panel. Her heel caught. The frame slipped. Serena moved without thinking and caught it against her chest. Celeste slapped her hard enough to turn her head. Victor crossed the aisle and drove Celeste against a pillar, his forearm beneath her throat. Cameras captured every second. Celeste smiled through her fear. There you are. Victor, stop, Serena said. She burned your studio. Stop. She sent a gunman inside it. Victor, she offered your life in trade. Serena stepped closer, holding the glass between them. And if you kill her now, every fact becomes a footnote to your violence. He did not move. Serena put her hand over his. Your mother trusted the artist who kept the flame alive. I am asking you not to extinguish it. His eyes found hers. Then his arm lowered. Agents pulled Celeste away. An explosion tore through the sacristy. Fire rushed along the rear wall. Damien had planted incendiary charges before entering. Smoke rolled across the ceiling as reporters and agents surged toward the doors. Victor grabbed Serena. We leave. The evidence box. Copies exist. The window. Serena. She looked up at the hidden woman glowing within Saint Aurelia's robes. Elena's work had survived murder, theft, neglect, and darkness. A burning beam crashed between Serena and the exit. Victor crossed through the sparks to reach her. A gunshot cracked from the choir loft. Celeste had broken free and taken an agent's weapon. She aimed at Serena. Victor turned. The bullet struck beneath his collarbone. He staggered, but remained standing long enough to fire once. Celeste's weapon flew from her hand. She collapsed behind a pew, wounded in the shoulder. Victor dropped to one knee. Serena reached him. Blood spread across his shirt. You are not dying here, she said. I had not planned to. She pulled his arm over her shoulders. Marco and 2 guards reached them, taking his weight as they moved toward the doors. The restored borders of the central window glowed above the flames. The leadwork began to bend. Victor looked back. My mother's window. Serena held the missing panel against her chest. Your mother wanted the truth to survive. She never said the glass had to. The upper frame collapsed. Outside, the burning chapel painted the night red and gold. Federal agents held Damien and Celeste beneath flashing lights. Reporters crowded the barricades. Victor's blood covered Serena's hands. He lifted one trembling finger to her face. For once, he did not stop an inch away. He touched her cheek. Then his knees gave out. Victor survived surgery. The bullet missed his heart by less than 2 inches. For 3 days, Serena sat beside his hospital bed, while armed guards occupied the private floor. The Voss Foundation collapsed in public. Prosecutors announced charges involving fraud, trafficking, arson, conspiracy, attempted murder, and obstruction. Search warrants reached 6 of Santa Fe's most protected families. Victor did not burn their homes. He dismantled the favors, contracts, and secret guarantees that had made them untouchable. On the 4th morning, Serena woke in a chair, with his fingers moving carefully through her hair. You are supposed to be unconscious, she said. Disappointing doctors is one of my cheaper habits. She reached for the call button. Victor caught her wrist. Stay. It was the first request she had heard from him. Serena sat again. You stepped in front of a bullet. Yes. You could have died. That was the part I disliked. Anger rose behind her tears. She struck his uninjured arm. He winced. Your bedside manner lacks discipline. I thought you were dead. I was not. I know that now. Victor brought her knuckles to his mouth. The kiss was soft and strangely reverent. I was wrong about you, he said. Only once? I believed your courage came from failing to understand danger. And now? Now I know you understand it, and choose anyway. That is sometimes stubbornness. I find I am devoted to both." The word settled between them. "I do not know how to offer you anything ordinary," Victor said. "Ordinary burned with my studio. I can rebuild it. The studio, the chapel, everything." Serena shook her head. "You replace loss with ownership. Ask what I want." The question seemed harder for him than ordering the airport closed. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "I want Saint Aurelia restored as a public memorial and working arts center, not a private gallery. I want scholarships for artists people underestimate because of their bodies, backgrounds, or bank accounts. I want every property stolen through the preservation fund returned or transferred into community trusts. That will take years. Then we will be busy." His eyes sharpened at we. "I want my studio rebuilt as an investment, not a gift. I keep control. 51%. 70. 60. 70. Or I find another criminal financier." The corner of his mouth moved. 70. And no hidden cameras. They were security cameras. They were hidden. I will disclose them. You will remove them from private spaces. When you want to protect me, you ask before rearranging my life. That may be difficult during gunfire. Outside gunfire, I will attempt it. That is not an agreement. It is the most honest promise I can make." Serena studied him. He had not become harmless. He remained disciplined, controlling, and capable of terrible violence. But when she had asked him to release Damien and Celeste, he had listened. Not because he was weak, because he had chosen her voice over vengeance. "One more thing," she said. "I expected one. You do not own me. You do not own me. Protecting me does not give you a claim. You do not get to decide we are together." Victor's face became completely still. "That decision belongs to both of us," Serena said. "And what have you decided?" She kissed him before answering. This kiss was slower than the one in the library. No smoke, no panic, no armed men outside the door. Victor touched her face as if learning that contact could be chosen without becoming control. When Serena drew back, she whispered, "You are going to learn how to date me. I have removed governments from shipping routes. Then dinner should be manageable. Will there be rules?" "Several. I dislike rules. You enjoy making them. That is different." 1 year later, Saint Aurelia opened again. The chapel's outer walls retained faint burn marks beneath the repaired plaster. Serena insisted on leaving them visible. Thin gold seams crossed the restored central window, honoring fractures without pretending they had never existed. On opening night, hundreds of candles filled the nave. Students, former shelter residents, artists, neighborhood families, and survivors sat in pews once reserved for donors who had raised phones to laugh. Serena stood beneath the window in a new midnight blue dress. It followed her curves without apology. Along the hem, she had sewn small pieces of blackened glass recovered from her studio. Victor waited near the doors in black, as always. Powerful men still lowered their voices when he entered a room. His enemies had not disappeared, and no one mistook him for gentle. But when Serena crossed the chapel, his expression changed only for her. "You are late," she said. "I was meeting the final property trustee. Did you threaten him?" "I clarified the cost of delay." "Victor." He signed. She tried not to smile. "Progress remains slow. I have dated you for 11 months. I understand patience. You waited outside my studio for 6 hours yesterday. You were working with a man I had not met. He was installing plumbing. He appeared unusually interested in your sink." Serena laughed. Victor rested a hand at her waist, possessive but light enough that she could leave whenever she chose. She stayed. Marco lowered the electric lights. Candlelight took over, and Elena's hidden woman appeared inside Saint Aurelia's robes. The 7 family crests had been replaced by the names of neighborhoods and community trusts, now protected beneath the memorial. Victor looked up at his mother's work. Grief moved through his face, not healed or erased, but no longer ruling him alone. She would have liked this, Serena said. She would have liked you. You cannot know that. She trusted the artist who kept the flame alive. Victor reached into his coat and removed a folded document. Serena raised an eyebrow. Should I be concerned? Usually. It was the deed to Saint Aurelia. Serena's name appeared beside his as equal trustee. No shell company? She asked. No. No hidden clause? Your attorney reviewed it. My attorney says you frightened 3 people in his office. They were inefficient. Serena folded the deed and returned it to his pocket. You are sharing control. It hurts more than the bullet. She placed both hands against his chest. What happens now? Victor looked around the open chapel, at the repaired glass and the people whose lives continued beneath it. Now I stop trying to burn everything that threatens you. That sounds healthy, and learn to burn only what deserves it. Less healthy. His mouth curved. Serena kissed him beneath the window. Applause rose from the pews. She pulled back laughing while Victor inspected the crowd as if public affection might qualify as a security breach. Let them, she whispered. His attention returned to her. For once, he did. Outside, snow softened the rooftops and the dark mountains beyond Santa Fe. Black SUVs waited along the curb, but the chapel doors remained open. Anyone could enter. Inside, the plus-size artist who had once stood covered in ink lifted her face toward the light she had rebuilt. The mafia boss beside her no longer mistook love for ownership. High above them, hidden truths burned through colored glass, while every candle remained alive.